Elevation Nation. It is always a treat when we get to have a fellow podcaster, fellow entrepreneur to come hang out with us for an evening to enlighten Elevation Nation on their journey. If you are looking at law school or going into law or entrepreneurship or being a badass bitch just starting your own company and doing your own thing, even when times get tough, our guest tonight on the podcast is for you. Kayla Morán, welcome to Elevation Nation. We are so excited to have you on the show tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Kayla, you're not the first lawyer we've had on the podcast. We've actually had one lawyer before, not a young adult though. So we're going to be able to talk about a lot of different things. And our first lawyer on the show was the first lawyer we had on was one of Sam's favorite professors from school who gave a really unique perspective. But I can't wait for this. This is going to be great. I've been following you on Instagram, I feel like, for a while now, looking at you, starting another company, doing a podcast, so much to talk about.
Yeah. Well, you have to send me that episode, Sam. I'm excited to listen to it. I
will.
I like getting a lot of different types of perspectives. And when we do my podcast, you'll see a little bit about that. And Elevation Nation will get to see a little bit about that. But I'm excited to tell you guys a little bit about me. And yeah, I'm an open book. Ask away.
Hell yeah.
I know. We're excited. That'll be good.
So,
and that was elevator number 33 for folks that are looking. Jennifer Gershberg, my law professor from college, and she's the best. So we'll send it to you, Kayla. But before we get started, obviously Parker and I have been following you. We know who you are, but Elevation Nation may not. So we're going to start it off, Kayla, with an elevator pitch. Who are you?
That's so hard because I talk a lot.
That's fine.
20...
It can be a really tall building with a long elevator. You're good.
Yeah. I'm 25. I'm from Miami, Florida. I went to UCF for college, and then I went to the University of Tennessee for law school. I am an influencer. I am a podcast host. I am a new lawyer in Florida. I just got licensed this summer, and I am a personal injury and complex civil litigation attorney by day, building a trademark practice by night and weekends. And what else do I do? I love to volunteer. I love community service. I love mentorship. I love networking. And I've been on a growth and health and wellness journey for the last couple of years. And so that's why I'm really excited to chat with you guys and share more about that and just really working hard to be more aligned with my true self and focusing on my mental health. That's been really important to me in the last couple of years and kind of fuels everything I do. And so if it looks like I do a lot of crazy different things that don't make sense, I promise you there's a reason why I do every single thing. And in my head, they all make sense and they go together.
I absolutely love it, Kayla, because, Sam and I talk about mental health all the time, how important it is, even more important than physical health in some regard. But it's funny when you say Sam's got a lot of interesting things that he does, and I give him a little bit of crap too. And he's like, oh, it works for me. I'm like, all right, whatever. But, Sam's got his routine. Sam's got his things. And I'll be honest, I've taken on some of Sam's little routines as well, and they do work. So we'll get all into that type of stuff. We got a full conversation coming. But, Kayla, we always ask every guest, too, like after we learn a little bit more about who they are, we always like to ask, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, was it always an entrepreneur? Was it always a lawyer? Because I don't know.
This is so hard because I was that kid that said that I wanted to be a lawyer since I was little, but I didn't know what type of lawyer. I just said I wanted to be a lawyer, right? I saw it on TV and I was like, oh, that seems cool. I like to argue. I'm good at it. I enjoy talking to people and learning from different people. I'm very curious. I love that banter, that back and forth. I want to be a lawyer. That was it. And I'm Latina, and I grew up in a very Cuban household. I'm Cuban Ecuadorian, born and raised in Miami, first generation American, firstborn in this country. Spanish is my first language. And I grew up in a household that was like, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or a businessman, or you're going to marry a doctor, a lawyer, and a businessman. Not or, and, both. You are going to have both. And I was like, okay, I choose lawyer. I think I would be good at it and it looks cool. And then as I got older, really high school is when I was like, okay, now I kind of know what a lawyer is. I don't want to do litigation. I don't want to be in a courtroom, which is important because I do that now, but that wasn't my choice. And it's not my intended path. It's not what I want to do forever. And I don't plan to do it for very long. But I was like, I don't want to be in a courtroom. I want to do transactional law. My dad's in finance and banking and like loans and commercial loans. And I was like, I want to be on the lawyer side of that deal. Like, that's what I wanted to be. Real estate, corporate law, transactional law. Went to college. That was still the plan. Went to law school. That was still the plan. I get to law school and I hated it. Hated law school. And we can get all into that. And I talk very openly about how much I hated law school. And it was the worst 3 years of my life, but the most transformative. And I say that because my mental health and growth journey truly began because I had to do some really deep soul searching when I was in law school. And
that happens a lot, right? Like we have these ideas for what we're supposed to do, right? Like your parents gave you 3 options for a path. And like,
I'm glad, like, they didn't give me options. They were just like, that's the American dream, you know? That's how you get out of it.
It's like the portrayed perception of what American dream is. Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't push it on me. So they were like, I think you would be good at this. Like, and I enjoyed it. So it was like, I destined myself for that. And then they ran with it. So they've never told me what I needed to do or be. That was my grandma really more so being like, you know, doctor, lawyer, entrepreneur. That's how you're successful. That's how, you know, she's saying this all in Spanish. And it's very like, you know, she's trying to empower me and, you know, first generation really like trying to push me to be successful because she got out of that situation and she made a life for herself here and she wants us to have more than we had. And so do my parents. But they really allowed me to be the one to choose what I wanted, both me and my younger brother. He's 21 and he's a senior in college and, you know, he's still trying to figure it out too. But they really like, once we said we like something, they're like, okay, let's help you get there. My dad is a LinkedIn fiend and it was like, let me connect you to all these people. No, seriously. We DM on LinkedIn regularly. Like we have email, text, phone calls, and LinkedIn and Instagram DMs, like all going at the same time, constantly.
I wonder what the different topics like are. You know, LinkedIn, we talk about this. Instagram, we talk about this. Oh, but if I text you, something, you know,
it's usually different. Like motivational, like videos and quotes and things like that.
Okay.
But like texting is either motivational quotes or like, can you do this? Or like, I need you to do this. And email is like resumes and like connecting me to people too. And then phone calls like, I need you to do this right now. Like, where are you? But yeah, so my dad was the one that like, he's like, okay, like I work with a lot of attorneys at work every single day. Like, let me connect you. Let me put you in contact. I got really invested in that world and that networking. And I fell in love with networking because it was easier for me, but I truly I enjoy talking to people. So networking was a natural thing for me, hence the podcast later in life. But yeah,
So Kayla, let's talk for a second because I have so many questions and I want to make sure we can break it down. So we get to law school, right? We knew we liked to talk. We knew we liked to argue. We thought we'd be good at it. And we got to law school and you said it was some of the hardest years of your life. And I think, obviously, I have friends that just went through law school and it is extremely difficult, but I would guess that it was even more difficult on yourself when you realized it wasn't a cakewalk or it wasn't going to be easy. And this dream that you had for a long time was a little bit more rocky than perhaps you thought. Is that the case a little bit as well?
Yeah, for sure. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. You know, everyone tells you when you say you're going to go to law school, every lawyer is like, don't go to law school. Like, why are you going to law school? Like, and I hated those people growing up. I hated them so much. And now I'm becoming that lawyer. And I feel so bad because I say that to people all the time. But I truly think you need to be a special type of person because if not, law school will eat you alive. And it really almost did. So to take it back, like to really give you the full picture of why it was so hard for me, I've struggled with depression and anxiety since I was 12. Anxiety I didn't know about. Anxiety really manifested for me and became a thing to me and known that I had it and I struggled with it in college. But depression since I was 12. And knowing also anxiety now looking back too. But my final semester of college, I was studying for the LSAT and I also got into a relationship with someone that was really toxic. And I know you guys follow me. I just posted, I read It Ends With Us again, and that I read It Starts With Us, the Colleen Hoover books. So I originally read It Ends With Us. That's the winter break after I graduated from college, which is the semester that, my final semester, that semester that I had been seeing that guy and taking the LSAT. I had to take the LSAT twice. Most people do. The reason I had to take it twice is I was hospitalized the week before the first LSAT because I had panic attacks, and I had never experienced that before. And it was, I truly say, if I had stayed in college one more week, like I graduated at the perfect time, graduated a semester early. It was truly the best thing that could ever happen in my life. If I would have stayed any longer, it would have become an abusive relationship, 100%. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I got really lucky that it didn't get to that point because I had a support system and I had friends that believed in me. The girls didn't, but my guy friends did. And I will forever be grateful to them. And I made a whole story about that when I finished the book. But I had read that book for the first time right after that ended. So mind you, I leave college and it's like, it wasn't an exciting thing. I was like, all right, next step, law school. I need to apply to law schools because I was applying super late. I was applying in January because I had to take it again. So I was like, I need to apply to law school. I need to get into law school. That's my focus. I just like compartmentalized all of it, shoved it in a box somewhere, and did not deal with any of those emotions. The anxiety, the panic attacks, I was being stalked. I was being harassed. Like, it was an awful situation. I was already dealing with depression and anxiety. I had already had suicidal ideation. It was just not a good time in my life. I never dealt with it. I got a job as a legal assistant at a law firm downtown. I was commuting an hour to work every single day, 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. You know, the whole 9 yards. I was adulting for 6 months. And then I took a 2-month break off to mentally just check out before I started law school. Best decision I ever did. Do not read or anything before you go to law school. Like, there's nothing you can read to prepare you for law school. Just go on a vacation. Like, do nothing for 2 months. I start law school. Again, I haven't dealt with any of this. I start seeing one of my classmates, new guy I just meet. And I remember October comes around and he's like, I love you, but I can't do this. Like, you need help. Like, you need to go to therapy. I can't be with you when you have so much struggle. Like, you're struggling with so much. And he pushed me to go to therapy. And that was the first time therapy, like, actually clicked. And I started processing all of it. And I was like, okay, there's a lot more there that I didn't know was there. Like, I've been in therapy for years. But I didn't believe in it, and I didn't think it worked, and it wasn't working because I didn't want it to work. You have to want it. And it wasn't until someone that truly did not know me, did have no reason to want to help me. He just and I don't know if it's the way he looked at me or that when he grabbed me, like we were walking, he was walking to my parking garage. I'm bawling my eyes out. He stops. It's like this time of year, honestly. It was like October. Stops on the side of the road and he like turns around and looks at me and he grabs me and he's like, I love you, but you need help. And I don't know.
And sometimes, Kayla, thank you for getting introspective and talking about this, because I think for a lot of young people out there, especially Elevation Nation, the listeners, we are all young people trying to navigate the real world, right? And those pressures and those stressors come in all different shapes and sizes. And something that we like to reiterate here at Elevation Nation, we have, as Parker and myself being two guys, potentially more male listeners than females. And we like to stress the importance of mental health and there not being a stigma around going to get help. And so something that we like to say here is, Parker was talking about this before we started the podcast, right? That your mental health is sometimes just as important as your physical health, right? And we all go on walks or go to the gym or work out, try to eat healthy, whatever it is to help our bodies. But for some reason, for a very long time, there's been this weird notion about working on what's upstairs and what's in your head. And so we really stress the importance of whatever that methodology is for you to try to work on your introspection and understanding who you are and working on your mental health. And so Parker was making fun of some of my morning routines, but we all have things that we do that help us stay sane. And I think it's important in our 20s to figure that out. There's no better time than right now.
Oh, absolutely.
No doubt. And Kayla, I just want to commend you for like opening up and sharing, that, really deep, serious, experience in your life, because that's another piece too. As a young adult, I think a lot of people hold in a lot of the pain, the struggle, the hardships that they go through, thinking that there's shame in showing that to the world that you're not doing well. When, you know, I feel like Sam and I have talked about this before. It's like as a young adult, you graduate college, whether you go to law school or not, you graduate and you are in the real world and you want to portray to the world that you're doing well, that you are having a good job, you're making money, you're in a relationship, you're healthy, you're just doing things that on the outside, other people are like, wow, Kayla's doing a good job. Parker, you know, he's doing a good job. When in reality, we set these expectations so high for ourselves that I think it's hard. Sam and I, you know, this is the reason why we started Elevation Nation, was that we held it in all those struggles too much until we started talking to each other about what we were going through. And then next thing you know, you're having a conversation with a friend, and then a friend of a friend, and then a therapist, and then your parents or whomever else. And you're becoming real with it, and you're being vulnerable about what you're actually going through. So when I say I commend you, it's just like, it's so hard to speak, especially in a public, you know, platform like this, about what you've gone through, because I think a lot of people can learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I do it. To be honest, it's harder for me to talk to people in my actual life about it than the podcast. And maybe that's because no one's like actually around me as I'm saying it. And I think people listen, and I hope they do, and I hope it helps. And I know it does. But that was the beginning of me really figuring myself out and starting to do that inner work and that healing. I hadn't healed from it. It had been a year and I hadn't healed from it. There was past traumas that I hadn't healed from. And that was what got me to that point to have to heal from it, you know? And it was all of these things had just boxed up.
Go ahead. You can finish.
No, I was just going to say, like, all of it had kind of, like, I don't know, I had compartmentalized all of it because I had goals, I had dreams, I had ambition, and I knew that I wanted to do all these things. I wanted to graduate. I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to help people. That was my reason for going to law school. And so I was worried so much about everybody else that I wasn't worrying about me. And I would literally trauma dump on my friends all the time. And I had several guy friends, my ride or dies. Like when I posted that story over the weekend, I texted all of the guy friends that had helped me through that time. Guys that were ready to fight this guy, guys who were bouncers at the bars and would kick him out when he would walk in without him knowing why they were kicking him out, but they had my back. Another fraternity was ready to go fight him for me if he got within 30 feet of me. I had a whole army behind me, and that was what allowed me to get out. But I was trauma dumping on all of them. And it was finally I came to law school, and my one friend truly, sincerely, I joke that we were dating, we were technically talking, and we kissed once, and he looked at me and he was like, no. And then a couple of weeks later, he tells me that. I was like,
wait, saying no about what?
He said, no, I don't see you like that. We were Netflix and chill, and we made out, and he was like, you're no, I'm not feeling this. And he's one of my best friends. Couple weeks later, or I think it was a month after, because that was the first week of law school. Yeah, this a month later, he looks at me, he's like, I love you, but no, you need help, and I want to help you. And every time
that's some of the hardest conversations as a friend to say, is that you need to take a step back and you need to get professional help. And so
he is not like you guys he's into wellness and mental health. He's a bro. He's a baseball player, hardcore.
You gotta break that stigma.
There are bros that can be introspective.
I love him to death. He does not talk. All he talks about is sports. He has no personality.
That doesn't mean he doesn't think these things. So talking from a guy.
Oh yeah, no, he does. He's a very deep thinker. He just doesn't talk about it with anybody. He has these talks with himself.
Back to our point.
He's very aligned and enlightened, but he doesn't outwardly do anything about it. So
sounds like we're gaining an Elevation Nation listener after this, because it sounds like your friend wants to get deep, but maybe doesn't want to put it out there. So I get that, and
it was him that like, you know, but because he's there and he saw that I needed to be there too, he pushed me to get there. And with opening up and sharing my story, you know, law school just got really, really hard because I was doing all this work on the side, and law school's a full-time job. Like, people forget that. And law school makes you law school, because your career starts your first day of law school. Like, your professional legal career starts day one.
Totally.
And people also don't know that. But, you know, they forget that you have a life outside of law school and outside of law. Like, you have a family and friends and health. And, you know, some people want children. Some people have a dog, or husbands and wives and partners. And, like, they forget that there's all these other things going on. And it could get really easy to lose who you are and lose sight of yourself. And I knew that. I vividly remember, so I also had suicidal ideation, and he is the friend that I called at like 11 o'clock at night, I think, or like 1 a.m, and he didn't answer. Obviously, he's asleep. But when he sees my phone calls, like the next morning, like, I think I cried myself to sleep that night, which was a very common occurrence at that time in my life. And he's like, I don't know where you are, what you're doing, but, like, do not even think about it. Like, we're going to brunch and, like, we're going to figure this out. You are not leaving, and you are not doing whatever the hell you thought you were going to do. Like, absolutely not. And I went home, like, for break after that, for winter break. And I told my parents, like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Law school sucks. I want to come home. I need to drop out. This is not for me. I can't do this anymore. And they were like, why? And I was like, do you want a daughter, or do you want a lawyer? Because there will not be a me at graduation if I continue on the path that I'm going. I need to take time for me. And they're like, you've wanted to be a lawyer since you were little. You would be a great lawyer. Do it your way. Do it on your terms. You have always made it work and figured it out for yourself. If you need to put yourself first, then do that, and we will help you. But don't give up on your dreams, because you're going to regret that later. And they were right. And I'm really glad I stuck with it, but I did it on my terms. And that was the only way I got through law school.
So where was, like, that moment where you were just like, you know what, I'm going to own this thing, and I'm going to crush it. I'm going to go all in on it, and I'm going to get to the other side. And while also focusing, like you said earlier, you were talking about how there was all these things that you had to implement in your life to take care of your mental health. Like, where was that moment? Like, what was the things that you were doing? You're like, I got this, and it flipped for you. You said you talked about therapy. You know, Sam and I are big proponents of therapy. We've been going to therapy for a while now, and we've talked many times on Elevation Nation how important that is. But curious, because you're talking about, like, a really intense moment in your life, like, where you're really, really in a hard, difficult spot.
Yeah.
But you're I mean, we're sitting here, we're talking to you, and, you know, there had to have been some point where it all changed, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was in, like, that was the biggest crossroads of my life. It was like, I thought I had, like, I say this, like, I've said this many times, I think, on my podcast to my friends, like, I'm a very strong person. I always have been. I almost let that situation in 2018 break me. And because I am as resilient as I am, by the hair of, like, the skin of my teeth, like, I survived. And it was a year later, and that same, like, I was still there. I had been living in perpetual rock bottom for a year. And just, like, taking any of, like, the good moments and, like, holding on to that hope. And, like, that was what was, like, carrying me through, but I was not in a good place. And I entered law school in a really bad place in my life. And so I call myself a cockroach. My friends hate it. That one particular friend hates that I call myself that, but I'm very resilient.
Why?
Like, no, he hates it because he's like, you're beautiful. Like, why are you comparing yourself to a fucking cockroach? And I'm like, I am. I'm resilient. Like, no matter how many times someone has tried to knock me down, hurt me, stomp all over me, crush my spirit, like, I'm still here. I'm still fighting. There's a reason why I'm here, and it's bigger than me. And I don't know why, but I'm here, and I'm going to figure it out as I go. And it took that friend to really allow me to believe that. Even though he hated that word, he's like, can you call yourself something else? I was like, I don't know what's a better, and he's like, a butterfly? I'm like, but I'm not there yet. I'm not even at my caterpillar stage yet.
Sam, I think I have the word. And have we said this before, Sam?
It's about to come out of your mouth.
I think Sam's got it. I know it for sure. I think, Kayla, that sounds like you're an elevator. That's someone who is able to, first of all, get through a really difficult part in your life. Sam has been through difficult moments. I've been through difficult moments. We've been vocal about those moments on our podcast as well. And we all bake it down into this idea of having mental fortitude to get out of those moments. And elevators have a good understanding and grasp of this concept of mental fortitude, which we break down by knowing who you are at your core, forgetting about what everyone else thinks of you. What do you think of yourself? What do you know about yourself? What do you know that you're not good at? What do you know that you are good at? What do you like? What do you don't like? You know that better than anyone else in the whole world. And then the second part to mental fortitude is having a vision. You're aligning your vision, where you want to go based upon who you are. For you, it was you wanted to graduate law school. You wanted to start your own company, your own podcast. Be vulnerable with your audience so you can share your story and make a difference.
There yet. It's so funny. And I love this concept. And I really want to dive more into this on my podcast, especially because I think that
100%
is a really great encapsulation of my story and what I want everyone else to have for themselves. But I wasn't there yet. So my pivotal moment came when COVID happened. Truly, like 7 months into law school, winter break, December, it's March now. Like I was miserable. I told my parents 1 more semester. I'm going to finish the year and then I'll see what I'm going to finish 1 year and then I will see what happens for next year. Maybe I'll transfer. Maybe I will leave, but let me give it another shot because I started going to therapy and I was allowing it to start helping. And I wanted to give myself that opportunity. And so I promised them 1 more semester. Then March came and I was so happy that I got to come home again. But I still got to go to law school. I got to do both. And it really allowed me to take that time for me because school was on Zoom. So I wasn't actually in school. And I wasn't around those people anymore that were making me feel bad because, mind you, I'm also Latina and I went to school in the South. 1 + 1 does not necessarily equal 2. It wasn't the best fit for me as a person. Academically, professionally, the best experience. My professors saved my life. Faculty, they really, truly, the dean of the law school, I'm the only graduate he hugged on that stage at graduation. Because he knew all along how hard it had been for me. I had been very vocal. I told the same thing that I told my parents. I told my dean, I told my faculty. I was like, if you want me to graduate, you need to let me do it on my own terms. My grades are going to suck. I'm not going to be the best law student, but I'm going to come out of here the best version of myself with my degree in my hand, no matter what.
Kayla, that's
and
incredible.
Did you just say?
I was going to say, because it goes to the first part of mental fortitude, which is introspection and self-awareness, right? It takes a really long time to figure out who you are and what's best for you. And it's this constant, exactly. It's constant. And so the amazing part of mental fortitude and why we're so obsessed with it is once you figure out the building blocks for it, self-awareness, vision, and accountability, it's not like Sam and Parker have mental fortitude, we're good for the rest of our lives. We opened up Pandora's box because we're now aware of this higher calling, of higher purpose, of wanting to elevate ourselves every single day. And every single day I have to wake up and go, who the hell is Sam today? What do I want? And how am I going to get there? And that is a blessing and a curse, but it's a curse that you have, that Parker has, and that I have. And that's what makes us elevators. And that's what makes us so unique. Absolutely. We are part of this unique community that we're now growing of people who have this same mindset. Not everyone has this mindset, and it's not for everyone, and that's cool. Some people are like, I'm good, just coasting, doing my thing. I'm going to retire whenever, and I don't really care. I live for the weekends. There are others who are elevators who say, I have one life to live. Every single day I want to get better, and every single day I want to make my community better and the people around me better. And so that's why I love what you're talking about of I want to do this on my terms, because it took a lot of self-reflection and a lot of introspection to get there. So I'm giving you huge kudos and a hug through the computer that we are proud of you, because that is not easy to have that conversation with yourself. So good job.
Thank you.
So
and
you just passed the bar, right?
yeah. Oh wait,
Yeah,
there's
can we
more to this. There's more to this story, but then I'll get to that. So
Okay.
then I hadn't even really truly started doing all of that introspection and work yet. I truly hadn't. COVID allowed that to truly begin. That was the pivotal moment for me. And so I started the podcast my 3L year, which is basically senior year. So 3L year is supposed to be 3 LOL. It's supposed to be a joke. It's supposed to be easy. You're done. Like your job is set. You're good. It's party time. One last hurrah before you're like, fuck, the bar exam's here. And like, I have no life for 3 months. That was what's supposed to be that year. And I was like, no, like I needed to bust my ass even harder because my grades were so bad that I didn't have any prospects. And I was doing it on my own terms, but I still wanted to have a job. I still wanted to be successful in law school terms. So I was still working really hard to take the classes that were important to me, that I wanted to take, that will get me to where I want to be, but also taking easier classes to allow myself to have a higher GPA, to be able to look attractive to employers. I needed to do both, and I needed to navigate both. And I started working at Kayla Social. I started really putting energy into my blog and my Instagram because I was blogging my law school experience. I blogged about the LSAT, about how I chose my school, about what law school was really like, how hard it really was, the mental strength it takes, what the interview process is like for jobs, scheduling, time management, productivity, like all of these things I was talking about on my blog. And they were my outlet, but they were also what was drawing people in. And then I started sharing it on social media, and I kind of fell in love with social media. And I was like, wait, I don't want to be a corporate lawyer. I still love real estate. If I had to do real estate law, I won't be mad. I do enjoy it. But I think there's a way for me to combine my love of social media and my passion for law. I'm an influencer and I'm working with brands and I read contracts all day, like for my job. People don't know what these terms mean, but I do because I'm studying it. So I can help people be a lawyer for influencers, for creators. So this idea kind of sparked. And this was my 2L year. My professor allowed me the opportunity as a student attorney for my clinic. I was sworn in under the Supreme Court of Tennessee as a student attorney. And he was like, what do you want to do? What clients do you want to have? What kind of work do you want to do? Like, let me help you get there. And if it was not for this professor, I would not be where I am today professionally. He allowed me to find a client that was an influencer who wanted to trademark her brand. And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is, but I like it.
That's the dream, though, to get into that. Yeah.
Look, here I am 2 years later almost, and that's what I'm intending to do. I'm taking a course on the side of all of the other things I'm doing to build up a trademark practice. But so basically that was like that was the other pivotal point. So it was both a personal and a professional. So the personal was that I knew I needed to start this healing journey. I was also dealing with health issues, autoimmune disorder issues, relationship issues. Like there was a lot going on in my personal life, and I was in therapy. And I was also realizing professionally, like I'm going the non-traditional path. I'm building my own thing from the grounds up while I'm in law school, and I'm going to start setting the foundation for it now. And I started sharing that on social media too. And that's really that drive of, I think I can share this and be an entrepreneur and combine the two. And that was my career. I was going to be an influencer sharing my career and wellness journey while also building a business as a lawyer, because I was going to have to create my own business to do what I wanted to do, because no firms were hiring first-year associates that wanted to do trademark and social media law. That's not a thing. It's starting to be very, very new, but they're going to go for like the 5-6-year-old attorneys, not the first years. So that was kind of where the entrepreneurship thing came. Like it happened all between my 2L and 3 year of law school. And then the podcast happened because I needed to talk about it. And I wanted to talk to people who were doing the same thing as me, on the same journey as me. And that's how it all goes together. I promise there's a method to the madness over here.
Well, I will tell you that Sam and I don't know much about trademark law, even though we did try to trademark our old company's logo, our old logo, and it was not fun. Sam was like the POC, the point of contact on that.
There's two trademarks. So there's a logo mark and there's a word mark. So Elevation Nation is your word mark. And then if you have a logo for Elevation Nation, that's a logo mark. So technically it's two different marks, but I digress. Continue.
Our logo sucks. Someone can steal it if they want. That's fine.
No. Wait, you created that? Come on. I like our logo. You don't like our logo? I like our logo. It's simple. Simple's good these days. People
Simple and
are into
clean.
simple. But Kayla, I was just gonna say, like, now with TikTok and Instagram and like influencers, like I feel like that's just blown up over the last 3 years. Obviously, influencers have been a thing for a while, like since the start of the internet, essentially, or even before the internet, whatever you think of an influencer as. But social media and how people are starting their businesses literally in their bedroom, like by posting a video of themselves three
That's
times a
literally what
day.
I
Next
did.
thing
I
you
was
know,
in my living room, but same thing.
exactly. But like, you know, it's interesting is that the normal route for an attorney is going to go 3 years of law school, study for the bar, pass the bar, and get a job in corporate America or work for the government in some way, right? Like the district attorney's office or whatever it is, and then eventually go on your way. But for you, it seems like you're taking a different route. And I think it brings back full circle this idea of an elevator is that you see an opportunity. You know who you are, you know what you want, and now you're holding yourself accountable every day to do it. You're showing up on other people's podcasts. You're speaking on your podcast. You're posting on social media. I'm sure you're reading. Oh man, how many books on law or watching YouTube videos? I don't know how you guys do it.
I love to read, but I like to read romance and like fictional, like warm and fuzzy stuff, which I'm not a warm and fuzzy person at all, which I think you guys can tell, like I'm not, but like that's where I get that fix, like reading. And if they're too warm and fuzzy and like too cheesy, I'm like, I can't do this and I'll stop. But TV and movies and books is like where I get that like side of me. But I do not try to read. I'm not a self-help book person. Podcast is where I do my like self-help and wellness. I'm not going to read those kinds of books. I'm not going to read law books because there's no books on what I'm doing. I'm figuring it out as I go. And so talking about accountability, like like Sam said, I have to wake up every day and be like, who's Kayla? Like, what do I need to do today? How am I going to show up as that? What do I need to do to get to where I want to be? And I will do a little bit each day to get myself further to where I want to be. But
you mean you'll elevate a little each day?
There's no tools for me. Like, I'm figuring it out. I'm doing, and like by being on podcasts and connecting with people on social media and LinkedIn in particular, meeting people that are doing the same things that I'm doing or have similar non-traditional paths or ideas, and they're entrepreneurs that are figuring it out. And there's a lot of lawyers that are starting to be entrepreneurs now because of the social media age. So there is a slightly paved path. Like it's not paved, but it's been cleared out. Like there's a path there, and I'm making those connections with those people to help me. But in reality, the only person that I have to light up the path for me is me. And it's just, like you said, having a vision too. So going back to law school, like if you want to go to law school, I'm not going to say that I won't discourage you, but I'm going to tell you really quickly, like, and very succinctly and very honestly, why it's not the best idea for everybody. But if you still after that want to go, then I will help you get there. And so that's why I say I'm that lawyer who's like, you probably shouldn't go to law school. But like, if you really want to, I'll help you. But like, I don't think you should go to law school. But my thing with that is have a why. Like, why are you going to law school? And it's not because you want to be a lawyer when you were little, or because you think it looks fun on TV, or because your parents said you should, or because your dad's a lawyer, or grandpa's a lawyer, or this person's a lawyer. Like, no. Why are you going to law school? Look inward, dig really, really deep and figure out your why. And the why can change, but you have to have a why throughout the whole process, because if not, then you're not going to want to wake up one day and go to school or do that paper or take that exam or whatever. But you need to know, like, you need to have a reason to do it. And like, that's going to be your finish line. And for me, the finish line was, I want to help people and I have a passion. And my passion is social media, and I know I could be a lawyer in social media. And like, that was my guiding light. I don't like law school. I don't want to be a traditional lawyer, but what I want to do, I still need to be a lawyer for. So that is what's going to push me to get up every day and finish it on my terms. And like, so I always say, like, look 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, like, where do you want to be? How are you going to get there? Now work backwards. And that is what allowed me to get through law school. And like that, having that vision, and I have a whole podcast episode about this. And I have a whole blog post about this as well in my vision board, and smack dab in the middle of my vision board, December 2021, January 2022 was I'm a lawyer. And guess what? I'm a lawyer. Doesn't still feel real. Like it hasn't hit me yet. But I had this vision for my life, and that is what guided me. And yeah, like I just, you know,
it holds you accountable.
I'm still figuring it out, but I wake up every day and I'm like, I know where I want to be in that many years. How am I going to get there? What do I need to do today to get there? How am I going to show up today so I can be that person? And I want to help people along the way figure that out for themselves. And that's why I still do the podcast.
Every single day, you got to elevate, get a little bit better,
therapy for
get
me.
a little bit smarter, get a little bit wiser, and work a little bit harder. And that's what makes you an elevator. And that's why we're so happy that you are now part of this community of other people you can lean on to help you grow. So that's what Elevation Nation is all about. I want to bring us to a new section here, Kayla, which is our rapid fire section, where we have a couple of different questions we want to ask you and get the first quick answer that comes to your mind. So I know law school was a hard time in your life, but you said that the faculty was amazing. And I nerd out over this. This is why we had my law professor on, because I love law classes. And I think if I could go back to school, I wouldn't go to law school, according to Kayla, but I would learn some law. So my question for you, Kayla, is what is the favorite class from law school that you had?
Clinic. And I say that because I'm a hands-on learner, and I needed my professor to give me the tools and he taught me how to work with trademarks and figure it out as I go. And he allowed me to figure it out and have a client and guided me through that. And so, you know, it's not, the doctrinal classes suck. I hated them. I hate theory. I'm a hands-on learner. So clinic for sure.
All right. Clinic. I never took a class called clinic.
Well, it's like, so there's different clinics, and I was in the community economic development clinic. So basically,
there you go.
Small business clinic, essentially. And like my clients were people in the community, entrepreneurs. They were entrepreneurs themselves. And helping them. I had to work on 501c3 stuff, nonprofits, mergers and acquisitions, taxing things. But then I also have to do trademarks. And that was like, this is it. And it was that professor.
All right, Kayla, I got another question for you.
Hit me.
You were in law school, and now you're a lawyer. Like you said, you passed the bar recently. What is your favorite topic to argue about that isn't trademarks? Because I don't know if you can you argue that? There's got to be others.
Technically, yes, but that's a whole other story. To be honest, you'd have to get me, like, hit me, like, say something that gets me, and I'm just going to argue about anything. Like, I can go about
Fair enough.
I love it.
So I can tell you, like, okay, go ahead.
I thought it was going to be like some funny controversial reality thing that we can debate here. Yeah.
Nah.
Some pop culture thing that gets you heated.
See, I'm not a small talk person. I'm not a small talk person. So like, I just, like, if you just say something that I don't agree with, I'm like, why? Like, tell me more. Like, I'm just a curious person. I'm like, interesting. Tell me more. And like, we'll get into an argument because you have an idea. And I'm like, but why? Like, what's up?
There you go. Inquisitive. I love it.
You can always ask why.
So, all right. Our last question for you, Kayla, on rapid fire here. We love to read at Elevation Nation. I know you like to read too, some fiction, it sounds like. But what is a book recommendation that you have for our listeners?
Ooh. To be honest, and I said it a couple times in this podcast episode, but I would say trigger warning. I'm sure everyone knows about what it now, especially what it's about. But I do think Reading It Ends With Us, even though it's a Colleen Hoover and it's a romance and fiction book at some level, I do think that's a great book to read because it explains so much about why it's so difficult to get out of the situations and how sometimes you get into them without even realizing. And, you know, it took me until getting out to realize I was in one. Like, I knew it was bad. I knew something was wrong. I knew this person wasn't okay. And I knew that I needed to get out. But the reason I wanted to get out so badly was because he was bringing me down and I knew I wanted more for myself and I had a vision. This wasn't what I deserved. It wasn't what I wanted on a relationship level. It wasn't until later that I really realized how bad it really got. So I do think that's a great resource. Just, it teaches you a lot about yourself and about humans and about their thought process and how complex relationships really are with not just partners, but friends and family. And so I think that's a great resource. I mean, there's so many books. I've read so many books, but honestly, that and this is also like a cheesy romance novel, but The Keaton Chronicles by Gillian Dodd, that book, that series in particular, I've been reading it since I was 15. It ended like 3 years ago. So like pretty much my whole adolescence, this series had been going on. And every time I would have something traumatic or really impactful going on in my life, I would reread this series, which is a lot of books. But I would reread this series. They're easy, quick reads. But she had so much happen young in her life. Similar situation to mine in a lot of ways. And I felt like I was going on a growth journey with her. I didn't have friends that were also going through so many different things constantly. That's why I call myself a cockroach. I was like, I get back up and then something knocks me down again. And it's like, but I'm not going to let it. I'm going to get back up again. And I just like had to keep going and doing it over and over. And no one I knew was going through it so many times. And I just got tired of telling people because they wouldn't believe me. Like no one believed that all of these things were happening. And I just got like tired of it. So reading this book, truly this story, because it's multiple books, and having her go through the growth journey and all of the realizations and learnings that she made, I took those as my personal learnings and growings, and they really allowed me to continue. And when she gets her happy ending, I'm not there yet. When she meets her person and they don't get together right away, there's a long road before they finally are like, okay, we're doing this. I'm single. I'm still figuring it out. But I know that like I may have that same struggle with that person, but it's going to be okay. It's not meant for me to happen the way the other romance novels do it. Like there's going to be all of these trials.
Can't say I've read a lot of romance novels. I mean, maybe I've seen a good amount of movies.
Like at the core, it's a love story, but I think there's so much.
You learn a lot. There. Yeah.
I learned a lot about myself, about learning about her and going through her story with her. And that author in particular, all her books have that growth in it. And that's why she's my favorite author. Like I gravitate a lot.
Well, I'm sure she does it for a reason. But Kayla, I live with my girlfriend. So like every other night, she's like, we got to watch this. We got to watch this. We got to watch this. I'm like, okay, fine, let's do it. And then,
Parker,
I'm the one who
bro.
No, but the thing is I'm the one who ends up crying. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's like she's like there, like fine, and I'm like the one sitting there.
That's literally gonna be me though. Like I'm just gonna be like,
funny.
why are you literally staring at you like, are you good? Like, why are you crying?
Yeah. Exactly. All right, we got one more section. We ask every guest who comes on Elevation Nation what their mental motto is. The motto that Kayla, that you live by every single day, whether it's something that you have written on a piece of paper that you look at, or just something that your parents told you when you were young that just always helped you throughout whatever circumstances arise.
Yeah, so mine's in Spanish and I'll translate, but it's lo que es para ti, nadie te lo quita. What's for you, no one can take away from you and no one will take away from you. And
I love that.
I mean, I think it goes along with everything we've been talking about. Like, there's a vision for me, and I'm still here for a reason. And, I know that there's a purpose. And now that I have found my purpose is helping people, I'm going to do that however I can show up that day to help people. So, yeah.
Love that.
Kayla, we have no doubt in our minds that you are going to continue to elevate your life and the lives of those around you. It is abundantly clear that that is part of your purpose and your greater calling on this earth. And I, for one, am extremely grateful that you took the time to open up with two strangers who now I don't feel like strangers at all.
No.
I feel like we've known each other for a long time. And I appreciate you opening up to us, opening up to Elevation Nation, and joining our community of unique young people who are conquering the real world. And I cannot wait to introduce you to more fellow elevators so that you can hear their stories and you guys can kick ass together in the real world. Elevation Nation, if you guys liked Kayla's story, it resonated with you, you're in luck, because we're going to hop over to her podcast and we're going to run this back in her style. We're going to get candid with Kayla. So we cannot wait for that as well. But Kayla, seriously, on behalf of Parker, myself, and Elevation Nation, we are truly honored that you're in our community now, and we can't thank you enough for the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Till next week, Elevation Nation. Peace.